Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Can you ever hear me all right? Is it working? Good. My name is Kevin Daly, and I'll be your MC tonight for the program. We'd like to welcome you all here today, and we're going to start out first with the president of the Lapeer Alumni Association. Our good friend, Dick Sullivan, will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Dick. I'd like to welcome you all to the 2017 Distinguished Hall of Honor ceremony. I would like to give special recognition to the president of the Lapeer Alumni Association, Dick, who just did the Pledge of Allegiance for us today. Are there any board members present today? School board members? I guess not, so we don't introduce any school board members. Before we move forward with the program, I'd like to invite you to join us after the ceremony in the North Hall for refreshments. We also have tons of Lapeer memorabilia on display. For the past several years, we've enjoyed a musical presentation representing the graduating class of one of our inductees. To begin our program, we welcome a musical presentation by our 2012 Distinguished Alumnus and award-winning musician, Deb Barber. She is accompanied by Emily Barber, her niece. They will entertain us with a classic from Barbara Goebel's class of 1964, Dancing in the Streets by Martha and the Vandellas. Let's do it. Thank you, Deb and Emily. They learned that all in the dairy barn back home, I'm sure. So, at this point in time, I'd like to invite Matt Wandry, our superintendent, now in his 7th year as leader of our school system. He's been instrumental in moving Lapeer Community Schools forward on an ambitious strategic plan centered on innovation. During his tenure, the district has been recognized across the state as an example of an organization staking its future on innovation. Please welcome Mr. Matt Wandry, who will speak on behalf of Lapeer Community Schools.
Thank you, Kevin. This is such a tremendous event to be a part of, and every year it's so great to welcome back some of our distinguished alumni and representatives of the past to see not only what the Hall of Honors has to offer and contribute to our local community, but more importantly, to get a little update on your local school system, what it's done in the past. And so much has changed. We have one high school. Wait, that's exactly the same as it was when the graduates were here. A lot has changed over the past several years in Lapeer for the good. You know, unfortunately, Lapeer is a shrinking community. We've seen a birth rate decline of more than 20% since 1980. At its height, Lapeer Community Schools was home to over 9,000 students in the 1980s. 1980-81 was the peak of our attendance. And we're around 5,000 students today as recently as this year's fall count in 2017. And so it's a shrinking community, and that's a result of a lot of demographic changes and economic changes in Michigan, but also in the Thumb area, especially things that are impacting the economy in Flint. And what's been really unique to be a part of is as the community changes, so too does the local school system. And to be part of that change has been really tremendous because things have never really been better in our community and in our school district as it relates to where we're at financially. Student achievement, our test scores are really spiking and trending in the right direction. And we look forward to the next phase of innovation and change that is sure to come. Just a couple quick tidbits. I don't want to hear the superintendent speak any more than you do, but certainly want to let you know some of the positive things that are happening in our district. We have over 300 students that are dual enrolled in college courses right now, and that's a spike of several 100% in the last 7 years. More students now than ever are leaving our campus with multiple college credits, which is great for them academically, but also a pretty huge savings for our families as well. Old Lapeer West High School was converted into something called the Center for Innovation, which really has been a tremendous opportunity for us to create an incubation center, if you will, of new ideas, kind of the latest and greatest of what's happening in education. And we have over 800 students a day cycle through Lapeer's Center for Innovation, everything from robotics and Project Lead the Way, which is an engineering-based program for middle school students. We have a senior walking program, a community-based music program, a capstone program for seniors, an alternative high school, virtual learning, just a variety of programs that kids can participate in. So we have coined what we call the campus-style approach to learning, giving kids an opportunity to attend classes in multiple different facilities throughout the day. We provide a shuttle system for them to do that. So there's a lot going on. We've made tremendous improvements to our facilities over the last 3 or 4 years, all without having to ask the community for a bond or any additional increases on their taxes, and found a way to manage the district in a fiscally responsible way. But what's most important is our people, and certainly that's what we seek to do today, to honor some of those of the past that made Lapeer Community Schools and the Lapeer community really what it is today. And that's why we're happy to do this. What a tremendous program. A program like this, folks, does not exist in every school system. I've been a part of a number of communities and a number of school systems, and I can say that what Lapeer has done, certainly predates me, is really tremendous as it relates to honoring not just our current employees and the contributors to the community and school district today at present, but also really taking stock in remembering the folks that laid the foundation for what makes Lapeer's schools and our town so great. So I'm excited to be a part of this event, and on behalf of the central office team and the Lapeer Community Schools Board of Education, thank you so much for taking time out of your Sunday to be with us today and honor these folks. And we certainly wish we could do more. You know, I don't know if a ceremony that's, an hour long and some light hors d'oeuvres afterwards pays enough tribute to some of the fine contributions of which you'll hear about this afternoon. But certainly it's the least we could do to say thank you. So thanks again for being here today, and look forward to meeting each of you afterwards.
Thank you, Matt. And who would have ever dreamed, 7 years ago when Matt came here, we had 2 high schools, and everybody said they could never combine those schools back together. And I think we owe this guy the applause for actually doing what he did for Lapeer. I think he's done a great job for us. Let's give Matt another round of applause. At this time, we have a video we'd like to show. Okay, very nice presentation there. At this point in time, I would like to ask each of the inductees to stand as I call your name. It's a very special time for me that they actually happen to be related. Don't ask me how I'm related, but there are a few people in the room that could tell me how I'm related to two of the inductees today, which is our first inductee, Phyllis Lang, and of course our last, Mike Sweeney. And Barb Goebel is not related to us. So. But, and again, I can't tell you how we're related, but there's probably somebody in the room that can. Barb Sweeney, as a matter of fact, I think can. But this time, if unfortunately, and I know it's hard for the family, Phyllis's family today, because we did lose Phyllis a year ago, and we would love to have her been able to be here today and receive this award before she passed away. But today, representing Phyllis is her daughter, Debbie. Debbie, we're just, not yet, okay? We're just introducing you right now, okay? We're not ready for you to come up. Yeah. You just stand and be introduced at this point in time. The next presentation from 1964 would be Barbara Goebel. And our third presentation is to Mr. Mike Sweeney, 1973. Now, and if you'd remain seated until I call you up. I should have said that beforehand, shouldn't I? Our first inductee in 1960, Lapeer High School graduate Phyllis Hartgrove Lang, a longtime supporter of Lapeer Community Schools and the Lapeer High School Alumni Association, passed away last year at the age of 74. She had a long and distinguished career as an educator that spanned more than 40 years. She spent most of her career in this building, where fittingly she will be inducted into the Distinguished Hall of Fame today. She will be inducted into the Distinguished Hall of Fame today. She was named Lapeer's Female Citizen of the Year in 2013 in honor of her commitment to numerous local community organizations, including the Lapeer Historical Society, Lapeer Family Literacy Center, Suncrest Auxiliary, and more. For many years, Phyllis gave of her time and talent to put on this annual event to honor our alumni. Phyllis earned her degree in education from the University of Michigan and later earned a master's degree from the Eastern Michigan State University. Her daughter, Patty Schabel, said of Phyllis, she poured her entire life into the community that she loved. Lapeer Community Schools meant everything to Phyllis. Anybody that knew Phyllis would know that's a fact. She truly loved the many students she had throughout the years. She devoted time and compassion to their education in so many ways, planning fun activities, centers, special days like Johnny Appleseed Day, units such as when the halls of E.E. Irwin came to life with animals and plants for the rainforest. Every activity planned for her kids was over the top, just like Lang's Big Top Circus. Phyllis loved her job. Next to the picture of Phyllis in her class of 1960 yearbook is this quote: "When you want a thing well done, you'll find her to do it." This one statement sums up her entire life and career. Now to speak on Phyllis' behalf is her daughter, Debbie.
And this is the youngest boy, Nick. Thank you for giving this honor to my mom. I think she would approve of the timing, though, because she doesn't have to give this speech. Sometimes you will never know the value of a moment until it becomes a memory. Now, that's a quote by Dr. Seuss. So true, so many things about my mom that we really do miss. Dr. Seuss was one of her favorite lessons that she planned for, especially his birthday in March. And I don't know if anybody remembers, but in 1998, she erected a sign that was put in front of the old high school, the white building. She drew the Dr. Seuss characters on the sign. She asked every elementary school to send a handprint of their child. So there were 4,000 children's handprints on that sign. We took the handprints and we filled in the drawings that she did. And it was just a wonderful dedication to Dr. Seuss and his contribution to literacy. Also at that time, she provided Dr. Seuss books to all the elementary schools in the district. And every baby that was born at Lapeer Hospital received a Dr. Seuss book that day. Fill your house with stacks of books in all the crannies and in all the nooks. Also a Dr. Seuss quote. Well, that's what my mom did. Every bedroom that we grew out of, she took over. And there are so many children's books and school projects, lesson plans. We've already gone through some of those, and we donated them back to the elementary schools so that the kids can enjoy those books once again. Also, when I was going through that shelf of books, I found this. This is a book that's entitled Oh My, and it was written and illustrated by Mom. 1994 for her kids. Just going to go through it real quick. She's in the rainforest, and she looked in the mirror and she noticed that she was a banana lady. She's like, what the heck, am I dreaming or what? Since she was a banana lady, she decided to make the most of it. She made a banana outfit. She found a banana dog. And she ate bananas, of course, since they were healthy for you. She saw lots of animals in the rainforest. And she was thinking, this isn't so bad being a banana lady. But then she woke up. And this is what's so touching. Then I realized I was in my classroom with my special family. You are a great bunch. That's what she told the first graders. And then there's a pullout here. That's why Nick's up here. That she had all the kids write their names in banana letters. So this is just an example of the kind of creativity that she had, the effort that she put into all of her projects. She truly did love the kids. And now she's going to be among another great bunch, the Lapeer High School Distinguished Alumni. So going above and beyond is what we all saw in her. She believed she could, and so she did. She was a very giving person and always made time to do the extra things that often others would say that they're too busy to do. She would be so humbled for this honor, and we are so proud of her and her accomplishments. Thank you on behalf of our entire family.
Just to tell you a little bit about her involvement with education, how many of her kids are teachers? Three? Three of her children went out of 5 kids, right? 6. Half of her kids went into teaching as well, into education. So that says a lot about Phyllis and the type of person she was. And Dwayne, it's good to see you here today. Our next inductee is the 1964 Lapeer High School graduate, Barbara Garver Goebel. Barbara, a proud Lapeer alumnus, started her fourth grade teaching in Flushing Community Schools and ultimately became the superintendent of schools in Flushing in 2000. She served in that capacity for 10 years. During her career, she served as a teacher, principal, assistant superintendent for instructions, and assistant superintendent for business and operations. She earned advanced degrees in education from the University of Michigan and Eastern Michigan University. During her distinguished tenure as superintendent, she oversaw the first major building project in Flushing Community Schools in 3 decades. She was also instrumental in leading the district toward major improvements in student achievement, metrics, and the implementation of operational efficiencies during difficult financial times. In 2009, she was named the Superintendent of the Year in Region 5 by her peers. Barbara retired in 2010 and lives in Petoskey with her husband, Robert. Now introduce Barbara is her husband, Robert Goebel.
Thank you. I apologize for delaying the honoree, but I was asked to read a letter. First of all, I'd like to say that as my wife of 40 years, I'm proud to be here too. But she also has her father-in-law, my father, who's 96, who is here to support her. And a very, very lovely couple who have known us for years. But to get to the point here, this is a letter from Barbara's third grade teacher when she was named superintendent of Flushing Schools. Dear Barbara, once upon a time, a beautiful, compassionate, intelligent 8-year-old girl, Barbara Garver, was a third grade student, Irwin Elementary School, Lapeer Public Schools. She had 2 supportive parents and a sister, Carol. When her daily assignments were completed, Barbara enjoyed sharing her academic knowledges and skills by helping her classmates. This little girl often remained after the school day had ended to help her teacher with various tasks, such as erasing and cleaning the chalkboard and the erasers, straightening the rows of desks, and making certain no items remained on the floor so that the janitor could sweep. Generally, the children were proud of their classroom and other school property. During the early to mid-50s, there was no bus transportation, and the teacher's salary was in the low $2,000 range with no fringe benefits. Therefore, most of the students and the teachers walked to and from school. Since Barbara and her teacher lived in the same direction, they often walked together. This third grade teacher is very proud of Barbara Goebel. Congratulations on your appointment as superintendent, Flushing Community School Districts, beginning July 1, 2000. Sincerely, Margaret Muir. May I introduce Barbara, my lovely wife.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. I truly appreciate this honor. Now, of course, I get the frog in my throat. Excuse me. Is this water? Sure. Okay, good. Get it. Help me get the frog out of my throat. Actually, some of the things of your introduction and Bob's, I'm going to say, so you hear a little repetition, but I don't think you'll mind. So I truly thank, it's not going away, it will. Thank you so much for this very special honor. Until I received a call from Jared, wherever he is there now, I did not even know that Lapeer did and initiated for a Hall of Honor. So for all of those involved in this selection process, I want you to know how much I appreciate this honor. I truly do. So first of all, I want to thank some of my family members who Bob's pretty much already introduced. My father-in-law, Walter Goebel, who I think he told you is 96 years old, and our good friends Lori and Jan Goldman that have lived in Flushing, and we've been great friends for so many years. Our daughter and 2 grandkids were supposed to come today, but at 8:30 this morning I had a call that she woke up sick and she thinks she has strep throat. So unfortunately, she knew not to come, but we were sorry because we were hoping that our 2 grandkids who are in the East Lansing School District are going, and I thought this would be great for them to come, but unfortunately they couldn't do it. Also, our son Steve, he lives in Nevada, and so, of course, he and his family were not able to attend today. My mother, father, sister, and I moved to Lapeer when I was around 2 years old. My older sister, Carolyn, who also went to school here and graduated from Lapeer, she graduated in 1959, was 5 years old. My father, she was 6 years old, excuse me, at the time. My father, Dewey Garver, was a state of Michigan food inspector, and on weekends he periodically, when needed, participated in working at the Lapeer Sheriff's Office Department when they needed extra help on the weekends. And my mother babysat in our home for young children, and many of those young children that she babysat for were teachers' kids. And so that was worked out really nice, so I got to know a lot of the teachers even through that process of my mom babysitting for their children. I absolutely enjoyed going to school here in Lapeer from kindergarten through 12th grade. I'm not sure how many other students might say they enjoyed going to school, but I truly, truly did. It is also very special to me that today this honor is being held in this building, because this is the building that I went to elementary school. And in third grade, I decided that I wanted to become a teacher when I grew up. Miss Muir, which you've already heard from, whom I surely will always remember and I will never forget, was my very favorite teacher. She recognized that I quickly finished my assignments and then had nothing to do. So Miss Muir paired me with other students in our class that struggled a little and had me help them. I was happy to help them and thoroughly enjoyed that experience. So I made my decision in third grade that I was going to become a teacher. I feel very fortunate to have had so many excellent teachers throughout my K-12 experience here in Lapeer schools. When I continued on my education in college, I realized how well I was prepared by coming here for all of my years to be educated in K through 12. I think I turned it a little too soon. I kept busy while growing up in Lapeer. My mother had me take lessons in tap dance, piano, singing, baton, and so she kept me busy. I was a majorette in the junior high and senior high band. We regularly attended Sunday school, church, and our other evening activities at church, which was then called WMPC. It's now moved to a newer church out on the main road. In high school, my last 2 years, I worked in the lunchroom as cashier, and David Parsh, who we've already seen from before that was recognized a few years ago, he lived 2 blocks from me, and he also worked as a cashier. So we had so much fun together when we were doing cashiering at the cafeteria for all the high school kids that came through. Back when I began going to school, I had to walk. I lived at 511 Madison Street, if that means anything to you. So I had to walk to and from school each day. I had many other friends who lived nearby, so we seldom walked alone. It was not until 10th grade that we rode a bus for the first time to go to the new high school, which is now not the new high school, but we were the first class to go for 3 years to the new high school. So we thought that was great, and that we finally got to ride a bus to go to school. In 10th grade, my father suddenly died from a stroke in January that year. So I missed a little more than a week of school, which happened to be right at midterm exams. I was out of school that long because while my father's funeral was here in Lapeer, he was buried in Arlington Cemetery in Washington, D.C. So that's why we had to be gone, and I had to be out of school a little bit longer. When I returned to school, right after coming back from Washington, D.C., all but one of my teachers did not make me make up the midterm exams. So again, that shows what caring, understanding teachers we had. Now I have a funny story to tell you, and I don't know if I told my husband this story or not, but so it's first time for most everybody. In 1964, the year I graduated from high school here, I was a majorette in the marching band, and of course every Memorial Day parade, we marched down through the main street of Lapeer and back, and then there was a ceremony there just across from the Catholic school. And so we marched down and back, and it was my last time to march as a majorette because the next week I was graduating from Lapeer schools. And so we stopped, as always, at the memorial across from the Catholic church. While standing there waiting for the memorial speech, I fainted and fell to the ground, and immediately people came up to help me, but I was already starting to get myself back up. Well, a policeman happened to be right there, and so he came right over as well, and he said he would take me home. I did not want to go home. I wanted to finish my last time, but he insisted that he needed to take me home. So of course, I did. Knowing that that upcoming week, this was Memorial Day, so on a Monday, so that upcoming week was our last week of school, I was determined that I was not going to be absent for that special week. So after getting home, my mother checked me over, and she determined that I had the 3-day measles. I was determined I was going to go to school anyway. I was not going to miss my last week of school in Lapeer. And so, because for one thing, I was salutatorian of my class, and I had this wonderful speech written, and I wanted to be able to give my salutatorian address in commencement. So I borrowed my mother's makeup, covered up all the measles on my face and body, wherever they showed, and no one ever knew that I had the measles. I went to the school for the last few days, did my salutatorian address. Nobody ever knew except my mother. So I was very fortunate to receive a scholarship for my first 2 years of college. To help me pay for my BA degree in elementary education, I also received Social Security since my father had died. And additionally, I worked 15 hours on campus there at the college, and on weekends I worked as cashier in a grocery store. So it took me 6 years to get my bachelor's degree, but by the time I got the degree, I had no debt, because between all of those things, I was able to pay for my bachelor's degree on my own. While I always planned to be an elementary teacher, just like Miss Muir, opportunities came along that eventually changed my career plan. From the beginning as a teacher at Flushing Community Schools, I volunteered regularly for committees and offered other assistance when needed. So during my 4th year as a 4th grade teacher, the assistant superintendent for instruction was interviewing for an administrative assistant to oversee special education and the elementary curriculum. So I interviewed for the position and was selected for the job. Interestingly, during my interview for that position, one of his questions to me is, where do I see myself 5 years from then? And I told him, his position. Ironically, I had his position in 4 years. I worked as an administrative assistant for him for 2 years. Then an elementary school principalship came open, and I was selected to take that principalship. So during those 4 years, I worked on obtaining a master's degree in curriculum and instruction and an educational specialist degree in administration, since I knew that I would need an administrative degree to continue on in my administrative roles. This is a funny story that I know you will remember him probably, but some of you may be in this room well. One day when I was the principal at Krause Elementary, a man came into the main office and asked my secretary if he wanted to see the principal. So I walked out of my office into the front office, and there was Mr. Harrell. He was my high school principal here in Lapeer. So some of you remember that. He was surprised to see me, and the first words out of his mouth was, "You are the principal?" He obviously had left Lapeer School District. So after 2 years as a principal, the assistant superintendent for K-12 instruction became open. The administrator that had held the position went on to be a superintendent in another district. So I applied for that job, and so I was selected, and I held that position for about 10 years. During the time that the Flint area economy was not doing real well throughout Genesee County, school districts began losing some students, as I know happens in this area too, and families were moving out to find better jobs. Obviously, that led to having to lay some employees off in school districts in that Flint area. My husband, Bob, and I began discussing options for me in case that might happen in Flushing. He suggested that I should consider getting an MBA degree since I liked math so much and always had done well in that subject. So I applied to U of M for their new 3-year cohort degree for an MBA. I was happy that I had listened to my counselor the very first semester that I went to college, right out of high school here in Lapeer, because when he was helping me select classes to take, he said I should take calculus. And I said, I want to be an elementary teacher. Why would I take calculus? And he said, well, I see you've had all the math classes you could take, and you had A's in all of them, so I just suggest you take calculus. So I listened to him, and I did take calculus. That prerequisite, when I decided to get an MBA at U of M, just to have another degree, just for other options, the prerequisite to get into U of M's MBA program was to have had calculus. I was so glad I listened to my counselor that first year of college. So after 3 years of every Monday and Wednesday evening, except for July and August, I took my classes for my MBA, and at the end of the 3rd year, I received my MBA degree. Not too long after that, the assistant superintendent for business and operations retired, and I was selected to take over his position, which I did for 10 years. So I was so glad, again, I had gotten my MBA. So after experiencing teaching, administrative assistant, elementary principal, assistant superintendent for instruction, assistant superintendent for business and operations, the superintendent at that time decided to retire, and the Board of Education selected me to become the superintendent of schools. I loved every one of those positions and was so thankful to have had all those experience throughout and have all those many opportunities. As superintendent, it gave me the opportunity to make a few changes and move the district in the direction for some structural improvements and facilities improvements. As superintendent for those 10 years before I retired, I was fortunate to obtain getting a bond issue for $25 million passed on the first try. Flushing had been debt-free for over 20 years, so we were going from no debt to 3 or 4 mills in between there for our new middle school. Our junior high, where our kids went at the time, was built in 1929. And they had added on a number of times, but it still was not adequate for today's learning. So we went to the board, and the board approved us going for a bond issue. And so then we worked really, really hard in our community and helped them realize how important it was to have not only a good education, but in a facility that could help promote that education. So happy I was the day we had the vote, and it passed overwhelmingly. And so I was able then to work on help deciding all of the things and help the architectural designs so that we could put together the type of building that we felt we needed for those middle school kids. So we had such a good turnout from all ages of our community. It wasn't just from the parents that had kids there. So we were really pleased when it passed. As is true in most all districts, we had some difficult situations to handle. Fortunately, for the most part, we had great support from parents, community, and staff when we did go through those difficult times. But this is not quite the end story of my career. I announced my retirement to the Board of Education in January of 2010 so that they had enough time to select a new superintendent. By May, I had 4 job offers upon my retirement, and after considering the offers, I decided to go to work for King Scott and Associates. They were an architectural and engineering firm that designed our new middle school in Flushing, and it turned out really well. So actually, it won a national award for the architects in the middle school. It's very different than any other middle school in Genesee County, but the kids loved it, and it's turned out very well. So I decided that I would go to work for them since they were one of the 4 that asked me to come to work. But I told them I only wanted to do part-time. So they agreed. So for the next 7 years after I retired, after working in the school district for 40 years, I worked for them 7 years. And I enjoyed calling on superintendents around Michigan that might be needing an architectural and engineering services. So my final retirement was a year ago this last month in October. After working 40 years full-time and 14 years part-time, I'm happy to say I loved everything I did in my work career. I have no regrets whatsoever. These experiences and the opportunities for all of what you've just heard that I was able to do started here. And so thank you very, very much. You gave me a wonderful education.
Congratulations, Barbara. And that all started right here in Lapeer. So.
And in this building.
In this building, too, that's right.
No, I think this viewer's room was across the hallway.
Our third inductee is a 1973 Lapeer High School graduate, Mike Sweeney. Patrick Michael Sweeney is an accomplished horseman who was active in 4-H for many years. Mike was the first 16-year-old in Michigan to have a pari-mutuel license to drive harness horses at a pari-mutuel tracks. Sweeney has been on the board of directors for the Michigan Harness Horsemen for 18 years and filled the same role for the United States Trotting Association for 10 years. He has won numerous awards in his career, including the Leading Horse Trainer in Michigan Award in 2011 and the State of Michigan Breeders Award the following year. In 2012, Sweeney was inducted into the Michigan Harness Horsemen's Racing Hall of Fame. Sweeney is a fourth-generation trainer who resides in Davison with his wife, Patty. Now to speak on Mike's behalf is his longtime friend, Dr. John McElburn.
Apparently we got some of this information. First of all, I'd like to say that if you've never been asked to present a friend for an award of this nature, it is quite an honor, and I am truly humbled to be here. Thank you. Today we're here for Patrick Michael Sweeney, but we all know him as Mike Sweeney. Mike has deep roots in the Lapeer area. He's a lifelong resident of Lapeer, as are his parents and were his grandparents. Prior to graduating from Lapeer High School in 1972, Mike attended for 8 years and graduated from the Bishop Kelly Catholic School in Lapeer. As you probably saw from some of the photographs that we had earlier, Mike developed a passion for rural living, farming, and animals at a young age, growing up on his family's Metamora farm. Mike raised cattle, tended crops, and helped his father and grandfather raise and race standard-bred horses. As a young man, Mike learned the fine art of training and racing standard-bred horses from his father, Pat, who is an accomplished horseman in his own right. Growing up, Mike was an active member of the Future Farmers of America and the Lapeer County 4-H, where he won numerous awards for the show cattle that he raised. Mike's passion for harness racing led him to pursue a dream of becoming a harness racing driver. Mike was, as we've heard, the first person in Michigan to obtain a full pari-mutuel driver's license by the age of 16. This meant that Mike was racing as a professional race driver against seasoned veterans while he was still a junior in high school, which may explain some of his grades. Mike has had and continues to have a career marked by excellence and success in harness racing. In 2006, Mike was honored with the Dan Rathke Horseman of the Year Award. And in 2011, Mike won the very prestigious Michigan Trainer of the Year Award. Mike has won over 2,000 races in his career, and his horses under his guidance have won over $7 million in purse money. Over his career, Mike campaigned 23 state champion racehorses in the Michigan Colt Stakes Series. Mike also made great sacrifices of his personal time to give back to the sport he loves, serving on the board of directors of the United States Trotting Association for 10 years and on the board of directors of the Michigan Harness Horsemen's Association for 18, where he worked tirelessly to improve the conditions for the horses, the trainers, the owners, and the fans of harness racing. In this capacity, Mike regularly met with state congressmen, senators, and even 2 governors. Precious few will ever meet the qualifications for admittance into a Hall of Fame. Only those candidates who have demonstrated the highest level of excellence over an entire career may be considered. Candidates must also demonstrate the highest level of integrity, honesty, and moral compass. Those under consideration must show a passion for their sport and a willingness to give back and to make it better than they found it. Mike was recognized by his peers as one worthy of such an honor. In 2012, Mike was inducted into the Michigan Harness Horsemen's Hall of Fame, where he took his rightful place amongst the giants of Michigan's harness racing elite. Here, his name and long list of accomplishments will forever be enshrined for all to see. Before I present the man of the hour, I would be remiss if I did not mention his partner in all of this, his soulmate, and his wife, Patty. The old adage that behind every successful man is a strong woman was never more true here. But Patty did more than that. She stood beside her man through the long hours and the back-breaking work, the thousands of miles traveled, through the good times and the bad. She was unwavering. And Mike would be the first to tell you he would not be here today without her. So, though today belongs to Mike, I would like to send along a tip of the hat to Patty Sweeney. Well done. Without further ado, I would like to present to you your fellow Lapeer resident, your classmate, your fellow Lapeer High School alum, your Hall of Famer, and now your Lapeer High School Distinguished Alumni, my friend, Mike Sweeney.
John is right. I wouldn't be here without my wife, so hats off to her, and go Spartans. It's truly an honor to me to be here. I, for the longest time, thought I would pass away being known as the kid that almost killed our principal with a black bear. So that's kind of, this will make up for it, I hope. But it truly is an honor. The teachers, these kids nowadays, they don't know what they're missing. We had teachers, we had the best teachers in the world. I can't say enough about them. It was people like, that just did everything for you. They taught you everything, and it's quite an honor. And I just want to say thank you. And I guess that's it.
And I couldn't go without mentioning, in my 6 years in the State House, I got to know Mike even better than I did beforehand, and he truly was a leader for the Horsemen's Association over there. We worked hard to try to save the racehorse industry in this state. Unfortunately, we just couldn't quite do it. We accomplished a lot, but we didn't quite accomplish enough, did we, Mike? So at this point in time, I would invite you all to congratulate all the members that we inducted today in the Hall of Fame. At this time, I know we've got a lot of alumni here from Lapeer, and we were going to have everybody just stand if you were an alumni from Lapeer, but I'd like to do it just a little different. I'd like to step it up and say, if you were an alumni from 1984 forward, so from 84 to 2017, could you stand? Let's give them a round of applause. Now let's go from 74 to 84. If you are a graduate from Lapeer, please stand. So if we move back farther yet, let's see if we've got anybody from here from 64 to 74. We've got a few here. So we back up another 10 years from 54 to 64. Yeah, look at there. I don't want to say anything. We're getting back there a little ways now, aren't we? So let's say from 44 to 54. Now, have we got anybody any earlier than that? Prior to 1944. If not, now let's everybody that's an alumni from Lapeer please stand. Let's give a great big round of applause for us all. Thank you all. And before we close, we have one more special treat for our guests, and that is our Emily Barber is back to lead us in singing the Lapeer High School alma mater.
I want you to know the class of 1950 had a lot to do with originating that.
Well, you get up and help me sing it then. How's that?
Why don't we all stand up?
Yeah, feel free to stand and enjoy. Where the maples cast their shadows, stands Lapeer High true. There her loyal sons and daughters hail her golden blue. Alma mater, we thy children pledge our hearts to thee. Through the years that lie before us, faithful we will be.
I wanted to say, Bob Lully, who's a retired Baptist minister, from the Lapeer School District, in our class, and I still Bob regularly, he had a lot to do with developing that.
And I think my mother was involved in some of that too, wasn't she? Yes, he's a member here as well. At this point in time, we'd like to invite you all. Thank you all first for coming today to the event. Congratulations again to the inductees. And then we do have refreshments down the hall, and we also have a table out here where you can get information about nominating for another year. So thank you again all for coming, and please join us for refreshments down the hall.